Van Morrison is a singer-songwriter and instrumentalist from Northern Ireland who is famously reclusive and does not court the attention of the press. His musical career started in 1964 when he formed with a band called Them, who were at that point active in London. And his solo career was launched in 1967 after he'd recorded some songs for his publisher and thought they were going to be released as singles, and found out that they'd released it as an album without telling him. His career has spanned since then, and we're on this year his 43rd album and is still going. He has moved around between the US, the UK, and Ireland. And again, reading on the Wikipedia, it sounds like he moves around a lot, but it's been a long career. So I think he's entitled to move around a bit if he wants to. Hi, my name's Dan. So this was Van Morrison's fourth studio album, and it's, I think, my first time listening to it. What I normally do when I review an album is I listen to it once, then I read up some stuff about it, and then I'll listen to it again. And in my reading up on this album, I found that he felt like he lost control of this album after it had been recorded, particularly the album art. He wasn't happy with it at all. Apparently there was this process where the record company were meant to get approval from him for various things, and they would ring him up. He was in the west coast of America at the time. They'd ring him up and ask him a question. He'd tell them one thing, and they'd just do what they wanted anyway. So he apparently has looked back on this album and has not been hugely happy with it. What I'm going to describe it, I think I'm going to say it's singer-songwriter. There was this kind of emerging thing at this point, and it was quite prevalent in the 70s of singer-songwriters, so people like Paul Simon and Elton John and people like that, who would produce an album, and the style is somewhat hard to nail down because they plundered all sorts of different styles to create quite a varied album. And this is definitely true here. But the styles that are at play here, I would say, are predominantly kind of soul and blues and rock, but kind of the lighter end of rock, and a little bit of rock and roll here as well. There are some kind of what you might think of as folky elements as well, maybe. There's a mandolin at play in at least a couple of tracks, but there's horns as well, and there's a few tracks that got a fairly cheap sounding acoustic guitar that's actually used really well, which is nice. It's musically, it's got a really nice feel. It really appealed to me, and I think compared with, I mean, I've reviewed a few of his albums, I think 2 so far in this list, and I've not been that impressed by them, and they were later on in his career, and this is better, definitely, because it's less slushy, it's less kind of like going for a really mellow feel, and it's got a little bit of bite to the music. Not that I mean that it's hard rock. There's something about so some music has this thing that I can't articulate, but it's the kind of to the music, which just makes it feel good. And early soul, some of it has it. Blues can have it, and this album's got loads of it. It's just got this real kind of musical appeal, and the feel to the music is one that kind of grips me. I think, oh yeah, when I'm listening to it. So it's good. The songs are not about very much as far as I could gather. Probably in terms of content, my favourites are Virgo Clowns, which has got a line about filling the room up with your laughter, which I really enjoyed. And if I ever needed someone, is good as well. Not that any of the other songs are bad, but they're not necessarily deep in that sense. The singing's fine. His voice isn't a naturally easy one to understand. I think his voice is used well on this album. So overall, I think this is a really strong album. I could listen to this over and over. So it's easily, so far out of the albums that I've encountered of his, it's my favourite, definitely. So it's going to get a good mark from me, a good score. So what do you think? Please talk to me through the comments box. That's it from me for now.
Dance on, Gypsy Queen. If it's all night, it's all right. Rainbow, let your love come tumbling down.